Welcome back to the Art of Safe Scumming, everybody. Today we're talking about Kislev. Kislev got some love in the most recent DLC and update, and I wanted to take a different approach on this one than maybe you've seen before, and I wanted to go with kind of when do we feel safe? When do we feel like we're starting to snowball? So I wanted to compare the Mother of Stankia, using that as an analog for faction power, and the Katerin campaign. So you could use this in Kostalton or Boris's campaign, but I prefer to play as Katerin, so we're going to use this. The first most notable change I think that you're going to recognize is circumventing the Ice Court for casters. While the Ice Court is a very powerful mechanic, it takes multiple turns to recruit spellcasters, and that can slow you down quite considerably. Now, to be able to access spellcasters, you need only build a tier 3 building to get the Hag Witches. This also unlocks 3 new magical lores that were previously absent from the Kislev roster. And as far as the DLC is concerned, whether you purchase the DLC or not, there were some additional changing of the things that have enhanced Kislev quite a bit. Like, for instance, some of the, that's the wrong button, some of the technologies in here that used to cost devotion don't, and they've still have some in here that cost devotion, but the largest change, I think, is if we go to this building chain right here, no longer requires devotion to build, which I think is a big plus. And there were some of the things in the major settlements that also require devotion, and those are no longer a thing. So I think that speeds up the campaign a little bit. It helps you get into that race a lot faster than maybe was previously possible. So I do like those changes. I was okay with it before. I will say that the Katerin campaign is still pretty challenging from the perspective of things that are just thrown at you, especially because now we have even more enemies in the area with the Changeling, right? So what I would say is that it is currently turn 63, and I'm feeling pretty good about this campaign here. I could have captured more territory, but I kind of ceded it all to the dwarves over here. I gave all this territory to the dwarves, and I've made good friends with the Empire over this way to insulate my western border, if you will. And that has given me opportunities to recruit. One of the things that Kislev is sorely lacking, which is siege attackers. I would have really liked to have seen in the DLC that we got a earlier siege attacker, because if you go through the Kislev roster, that is not the right button for the roster, sorry. If you go into the roster, the earliest that you can get a siege attacker is Little Grom here. That's a siege attacker. You can also get now the Elemental. It's a siege attacker. None of these characters are a siege attacker, and those were added. That's not a siege attacker, and none of your other things in the wood, wherever the heck they are located. Yeah, those aren't siege attackers either. So you are still very much reliant on the Empire to be able to recruit siege attackers at a semi-early point in the game, because you only start with one, and that's Katerin. Even the bears don't give you siege attacker. So you're either building materials for sieges, pulling multiple lord stacks to be able to build the siege equipment and then make the attack, or you're pulling Katerin to particular locations to be able to pull off those sieges, or you're recruiting them from allied recruitment through the Empire or the dwarves. So while it is nice to see that we got another siege attacker besides just running around with little Groms all the time right here, it would have been nice to have gotten an additional siege attacker of some kind to be able to pull those sieges off, because there are still a fair amount of sieges, and I'm just checking to make sure that siege attacker hasn't been added to something weird, right? And I don't see it in there. So Kislev did get a bump, but it wasn't a huge bump. And I would still classify this campaign as fairly challenging, seeing that 63 is where I'm starting to feel good, even though I am currently at war with Archaon. So I am at war with Archaon. I've eliminated Throg, Throt, Azag. I've made peace with the Chaos Dwarves. They got eliminated by the other dwarves, and I actually have this thing set up for a Skaven endgame crisis, and I'm purposefully leaving the Skaven alone because I want to generate a campaign where I'm just getting wave attacked by Skaven for a fun, maybe live stream down the road. If that's something you want to see, then definitely sound off in the comment section down below, and I will make that happen. So now I want to flip over and show you where I feel safe in the Mother Ostenkia campaign. So despite having access to fewer things, the Mother Ostenkia campaign, I feel, ripens around turn 36. And you can see that I've taken a decent amount of territory here. I'm pulling in a decent amount of money, and really my only enemy in the region is Malekith, and he's getting smacked around by Valkia up here. So I don't really have to worry about him too much. The only things that you really have to balance in this campaign after you eliminate Marathi and the other Dark Elves down here is to worry about your relations with the Wood Elves and Alithanar. These two are not going to get along throughout your campaign, and if you're too friendly with one of them, then the other one's going to declare war on you. So currently I'm managing that relationship, and as you can see, I'm doing an okay job, but I'm expecting Alithanar to declare war on me. The good news is if he does that soon, then he's not going to drag a whole bunch of other elves in. The important thing in this campaign is allies. Just like in the Katarin campaign, you want some allies. So what I have done is I've done a whole bunch of trade agreements. If we look at our earnings from trade here, look at the earnings from trade from the High Elves. Right, we're making a good chunk of money from them. Half our income alone is coming from trade, mostly with the High Elves. So being that close and an order-aligned faction really sets you up to be able to advance rather rapidly without holding an extreme amount of territory, and you basically max out. I don't want to say max out. I don't even have my my stuff done up here. And you can see that I'm in a pretty cushy position here as long as I can manage those two allies. The other thing that we are able to do now is this thing right here. So I can literally do this, and we'll just zap Gotrek over. Oop, that was the wrong thing. If we do it right this time and send him over to the... we want the Griffinwood. Well, now, with very little effort, I have now just met the Kislev factions, and I should, in relatively short order, be able to generate good relations with the main Kislevite factions and get the rest of my roster by turn, you know, probably by turn 45 or so. That will easily be done. So starting off at somewhat of a disadvantage as far as your limited roster with Mother Ostenkia shouldn't fool you into thinking that it is a weaker campaign. I would actually classify Katarin's campaign as much more challenging because a lot more things are thrown at you, and you have allies that are kind of embroiled in their own conflicts. You have to play a little bit more of a role in setting up their territories than you do with Mother Ostenkia, because you're sitting right next to the High Elves and the Lizardmen. So you're going to be able to set up trade pretty easily just by beating up on the Dark Elves. It's really not that hard. So this campaign is going to progress, probably moving north as I consolidate these allies over here. And then once I open up that roster, this campaign is basically over, because I'll be able to access all my stuff, and I'm going to have relatively mature provinces. Like this one's on its way to tier 3. My original province here is on its way up to tier 4. So I'll be able to get those siege attackers and everything situated rather rapidly within the next couple turns, really. So I would say that the Mother Ostenkia campaign is actually considerably easier than the normal Kislev campaigns. That's not even counting how easy Boris's campaign is. So that said, I would like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. What do you think about the State of Kislev? Thank you for watching. Hopefully we'll see another video here at the Art of Safe Scumming.